Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us today. आज हम chapter 11, अध्याय 11 पढ़ेंगे, and the topic is the universal form. And in Hindi translation, the topic given is Virat Roop. So Lord Krishna shows his Vishwaroop as well as Virat Roop. So it is valid from that perspective. Please join us for Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Hare Krishna. Saraswati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam Hare Kṛṣṇa Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Kṛṣṇa, dear devotees, प्रिय भक्तजनों, आज हम श्रीमद् भगवद गीता का चैप्टर 11 अध्याय 11 पढ़ेंगे. द यूनिवर्सल फॉर्म विराट रूप. प्लीज जॉइन अस इन द रेसिटेशन ऑफ द फर्स्ट वर्स. अर्जुन उवाच मदनुग्रहाय परमं गुह्यम् अध्यात्म संगीतं यत्योक्तं वचस्तेनया मोहो ayam vigato mama. Translation by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Arjun said, by my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. So, this is where Arjun is revealing, after having received the most confidential knowledge in chapter 9 and further understanding about the Lord's unlimited opulence, where the prominent opulence was discussed in the previous chapter, chapter 10. Arjun is revealing that all his delusion has vanished. So now, uske jitne bhi doubts the, they have all gone away. So he is feeling very much enlightened. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he writes that Arjun at this particular moment understands who Lord Kṛṣṇa is, that he is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Srila Prabhupada stresses it out. So here, so in the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad-Gita, हमने पहले जो first 6 chapters में we understand that Lord Kṛṣṇa talks about Karma Yoga. So in Bhagavad Gita, we understand Karma Yoga. The last 6 chapters, 13 through 18, 13 से 18, they are about Jnana Yoga. और जो बीच के chapters हैं 7 से लेके 12, 7 through 12, they are about Bhakti Yoga. So with the beginning of 7th chapter, Lord Kṛṣṇa went into the philosophy of discussing Bhakti Yoga. And Arjun is getting enlightened because that's more confidential knowledge. Confidential knowledge is we are not this body, we are the spirit soul. And so we should understand what is the nature of the soul. And then 3rd through 6th, Lord talked about Karma Yoga, how we should engage in serving Him. But then beginning with the 7th chapter, Lord started talking about Bhakti Yoga. And so that philosophy, more confidential knowledge. What is the nature of the soul? Jivera Sarupoya Kṛṣṇa Nityadas. And how can we be happy? By engaging in Lord's service. And how can all our senses be satisfied? By pleasing Hrishikesha, the master of the senses, Lord Kṛṣṇa. So when we satisfy the master of the senses, then our senses are equally pleased. And his another name is Govinda, one who gives pleasure to the senses. But how do we get pleasure to the senses is not that Lord Kṛṣṇa would serve us, but rather we serve Lord Kṛṣṇa, and that service will satisfy our heart, satisfy the soul, and satisfy and gives unlimited pleasure to us. And so, in chapter 9, अध्याय 9 में भगवान ने बताया pure devotional service, ananya bhakti, right? And we also covered the definition of what is Ananya Bhakti. Anya bhilashita shanyam jnana karmadi anavritam. Anukulena Krishna anushilenam bhaktir uttama. So uttam bhakti, the pure devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada really liked this term, unalloyed devotional service. Alloy means there is a mixture.
But unalloyed is like there is no mixture, it is pure. Pure devotion service. Ananya Bhakti. So Lord Krishna has been constantly telling Arjun, but in the chapter 10, अध्याय 10 में भगवान ने further अर्जुन को अपने opulence के बारे में बताया. एंड क्यों बताया? क्योंकि अर्जुन ने पूछा है. He wants to know. So devotees, they always want to know more about Lord Krishna. And so here in this chapter, Arjun starts that yes, all my doubts have been cleared. So what were his doubts? He was bewildered. Battlefield में युद्ध स्थल पे कुरुक्षेत्र में, he was thinking that his grandsire Bhishma, Dronacharya, all his brothers, cousins, his uncles, and his sons as well as grandsons, so all of them are gathered. He was seeing all the relatives gathered. But he was thinking from bodily perspective, and that is not the right way of thinking. So Lord Krishna revealed to him that we are in this world but not of this world. And here Arjun, after inquiring that I understand, but he also has a desire. He understands that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he wants to make sure that people who know, who hear, who read about Bhagavad-Gita, and they read, so far, how will they be convinced? He wants to show that. So this particular chapter will be using the acronym DRIVE, D-R-I-V-E. And so Arjun has been hearing it, right? But now he wants to request Krishna to display it, because by displaying, Lord Krishna would display and he would be able to describe that it's not just that he is saying that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can show as well that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, one of the interesting aspects that we covered in the previous chapter, so before we dive into DRIVE, is Lord Krishna's unlimited opulence. And Parashar Muni has given the definition that one who is full in all 6 opulences. And what are those 6 opulences? Aishvaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashashriya jnana vairagayascha sannam bhagaiti ganan. Right? So who is Bhagwan? Bhagwan is one who is full in Aishwarya, all riches, all fortune. And Yasha, who is all famous. Shriya, who is very beautiful. Jnana, who is most knowledgeable. Vairagya, and of course knowledge. And Aishwarya Samagasa Virya, who is all powerful and who is full in renunciation. That personality is Bhagwan. Bhaga refers to opulence, and one who has the opulence, so the potent is Bhagwan, and the potency, the opulence is Bhaga. So again, you cannot separate the two. It is also said in the Shastra, Acharyas revealed to us. And then Lord talked about his unlimited opulences. And here Arjun is saying that I understand that you are the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. But how would people in future, whoever will come, they will understand? And why is he asking? Because in future, it is evident that there will be many personalities, many living entities who would come, and because they are envious of Krishna, because they are asuri bhavam, because they are looking for name, fame and glories from others, तो जो लोग नाम की प्रसिद्धि चाहते हैं, अपने आप को भगवान के जैसे पूजा जाना चाहते हैं, वो चाहते हैं कि भगवान कृष्ण को क्यों पूजा जाता है, हम बोलेंगे हम भगवान कृष्ण के अवतार हैं तो हमें पूजा जाएगा, राइट? सो दिस इज अ बिजनेस ऑफ चीटर एंड द चीटेड. एंड Srila Prabhupada says that one who is ready to be cheated, there are cheaters also to cheat them. But he also wants that this society should not be of cheater or cheated. That society is not desirable, क्योंकि उससे पतन होता है, हमारा फॉल डाउन होता है, और ऐसे हमारे फेवर में नहीं है, बिकॉज हम लोग स्पिरिचुअली एक प्रोग्रेस करना चाहते हैं, हम अपने अध्यात्म लक्ष्य, द गोल ऑफ लाइफ की तरफ पढ़ना चाहते हैं. वो क्या है? द लव ऑफ गॉड हेड, भगवान का प्रेम, राइट? पोती पढ़ पढ़ जग भया, पंडित भया न कोय, ढाई आख प्रेम का पढ़े सो पंडित होए. कबीरदास जी ने कहा है कि by reading many scriptures, and this has been said in the scriptures as well, एंड श्रीमद् भागवतम भगवद गीता में अगेन एंड अगेन प्रभुपाद जी ने भी कहा है कि पीपल आर अट्रैक्टेड बाय द फ्लावरी लैंग्वेज ऑफ वेदास. वेदास की इतनी आकर्षित भाषा में लिखा, इतना वर्णन दिया है. उसमें ये बताया कि आपको ये चीज़ चाहिए तो ये यज्ञ करिए, वो चाहिए तो ये ऑस्टेरिटी करिए, ये व्रत करिए. देयर वेरियस डिस्क्रिप्शन, बट दे ऑल कर्म कांड से रिलेटेड ज़्यादातर हैं, विच अट्रैक्ट पीपल. सो इट देयर इज भक्ति ऑल्सो, बट भक्ति इज सो मच हिडन एंड पीपल आर नॉट फाइंडिंग इट. एंड इसी के कारण जब वेद व्यास जी ने पूरी वेदास लिख दी, महाभारत लिख दी, रामायण लिख दी, पुराण लिख दिए, उसके बाद में भी वो असंतुष्ट थे. इट वॉज नॉट दैट ही वॉज नॉट क्वालिफाइड. ये नहीं था कि ही हैड एनी लैक इन हिज कैपेबिलिटी ऑफ राइटिंग. इट वॉज दैट ही रियलाइज्ड दैट द पीपल इन दिस कली एज, जो लोग होंगे इस कली एज में जिनका जन्म होगा, वो इतने अनलकी होंगे, इतने अल्पायु होंगे, इतने बिविल्डर्ड होंगे, इतने उपद्रवी होंगे, कॉन्स्टेंटली डिस्टर्ब्ड होंगे, और लेस इंटेलिजेंस, पुअर फंड ऑफ नॉलेज, Prabhupada used to say, that they would be attracted towards this, flowery language for fruitive activities. तो जिन fruitive activities से हटना चाहते हैं वो rather उसमें ज़्यादा busy हो जाएंगे, to rise to higher planets, because ये सोचते हो कि तो देवतास, they are getting thousands of times more pleasure than us, so we want to enjoy that pleasure. You're not realizing कि ये भी श्रमिक है, it is temporary in nature, and finally वो इसी पृथ्वी पे वापस आएंगे, और rather बहुत सी पतन होगा उनका, right? They will have to experience, and even in the heavenly planets, Lord Indradev, who is a living entity, he is constantly disturbed, right? If somebody is going to finish 100 Ashwamedh Yajnas and take his spot, and if you observe Ekadashi, every Ekadashi is like equal to, if you properly observe it, is equal to a Ashwamedh Yajna. So there are 26 Ekadashis in a year. So just in 4 years, you could become qualified to become Indra just by following Ekadashi. But that's not the goal of devotees. Devotees want to go further beyond, not even to Brahma, but even beyond this material nature, and want to attain the supreme abode, want to go back home, back to Godhead. And फिर हम लोगों ने ये भी पढ़ा कि वापस जाने के लिए, अध्यात्म जगत में जाने के लिए, we have to prepare ourselves with the right consciousness so that we don't get kicked out again, right? We have to do what everyone else is doing, where everyone is focusing on pleasing Lord Shri Krishna. Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. So what is proper service? Which is to serve Lord Shri Krishna for his pleasure as he wants. So having realized this, Arjuna is satisfied. Yet at the same time, he understands, he realizes that there is a criterion needs to be set. A criterion needs to be set. एक प्रमाण रखना पड़ेगा भविष्य के लिए. जो लोग भविष्य में आते हैं अपने आप को बोलते हैं भाई हम अवतार हैं. आजकल हम देखते हैं कि हर आए दिन नया पर्सनालिटी आके बोलता है वो कल की अवतार है, राइट? एंड फिर लगता है कि थोड़ा जल्दी नहीं आ गए. अभी तो 428,000 ईयर्स करीब बचा हुआ है. सो इट्स लाइक कभी कभी बहुत से लोग bewildered होते हैं, बहुत से भूले भटके होते हैं, बहुत से. So it is very important कि ये acronym is set. So this criterion is set. So acronym today is DRIVE. D is for display of Lord's universal form as a criterion. So Arjuna does not want to see that for himself. Devotee doesn't want to see. He is just setting this criteria for the future, that there will be many cheaters who would appear, and those cheaters should be caught because they would have to show their universal form to the devotees. And we see that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, he showed the universal form. He showed the Vishwarup. तो विश्वरूप उन्होंने अपना प्रकट किया और सब immediately समझ गए. This is अंतः कृष्णा बाहर राधा. He is appearing as his own devotees. एंड जो अवतार हैं वो ऐसे ही नहीं आते हैं, मीन्स स्क्रिप्चर्स में उनका डिस्क्रिप्शन दिया होता है. एंड चैतन्य महाप्रभु का रेफरेंस 12th कैंटो में दिया हुआ है, जो हम लोगों ने रेफरेंस किया था. आप अनदर क्लास में पहले हम लोग पढ़ चुके हैं एट लेंथ. सो हियर दैट क्राइटेरिया इज बीइंग सेट. सो इट इज टू इंश्योर, टू एस्टैब्लिश कि भगवान जो है वो दिव्य हैं, टू हिज एस्टैब्लिश हिज डिविनिटी. एंड वो अध्यात्म आदि पुरुष हैं, and he is all pure, right? Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavam. So Arjun said that. Now he wants to for Lord to establish also. तो उन्होंने इसलिए भगवान के सामने ये इच्छा रखी. श्रील प्रभुपाद ने अपने purport में लिखा है तात्पर्य में कि Arjun knows that Lord Krishna is sitting in his heart as super soul, right? So as super soul, Lord Krishna knows that Arjun doesn't have any desire, but he wants to set a criteria for future. Now interestingly, when Lord Krishna hears this, he is actually happy that Arjun is doing the right thing. He is making sure that people understood the knowledge as Lord Krishna intends. बिल्कुल लोग समझ सकें क्या बोल रहे हैं और इस अध्यात्म ज्ञान का श्रवण कर सकें, सुन के अपने जीवन में ढाल सकें, अपनी लाइफ में प्रैक्टिस कर सकें. So Lord Krishna, he says that, my dear Arjun, you cannot see my this form, the universal form. And what is universal form? What is Vishwarup? Vishwarup क्या है? पहले तो यह समझना चाहिए. भगवान उसमें बताते हैं कि अर्जुन, तुम जो भी इस यूनिवर्स में देखना चाहते हो, इस एक जगह पे ही तुम्हें सब दिखाई देगा. जो भी तुम जानना चाहते हो तुम्हें यहाँ दिखाई देगा. तुम्हें भूतकाल, भविष्य, वर्तमान, हर काल में जा सकते हैं. सो अक्रॉस टाइम. सो टाइम ट्रेवल, you don't have to do it by taking on to a space machine. अपने इसी जगह पे, इसी रणभूमि में तुम्हारे को विश्वरूप के दर्शन होंगे और जो तुम देखना चाहते हो वो तुम्हें दिखाई देगा. अब सब जानते हैं कि अर्जुन को किस बात की व्याकुलता है. उसकी स्टार्टिंग में ये व्याकुलता क्यों शुरू हुई थी? दैट बिविल्डरमेंट, वो चिंता जो थी वो ये था कि मेरे जो सारे यहाँ पे जो गण हैं, ये सब मेरे संबंधी हैं, मेरे परिवारजन हैं, उन सब का नाश हो जाएगा तो क्या होगा. भगवान ने बता दिया कि ये लोग आत्मा हैं, ये शरीर नहीं है, तो इनका शोक ना करो. और रादर श्रील प्रभुपाद ने उसको और अच्छी तरह एक्सप्लेन किया है कि रादर ये जो भीष्म पितामह हैं उनका वृद्ध शरीर हो गया है, राइट? द्रोणाचार्य उनका वृद्ध शरीर हो गया, लेकिन वो भक्त हैं. तो वो अगर अपना शरीर त्यागेंगे तो एक्चुअली इट्स अ बून, क्योंकि वो लोग अपना गोल ऑफ लाइफ अटेंड कर लेंगे. वो लोग अध्यात्म जगत, दे विल बी एबल टू गो बैक होम, बैक टू गॉड. तो ये जहाँ समझ में आ रहा था अर्जुन को, बट उसकी इच्छा थी कि वो देखे कि ये क्या हो रहा है. सो ही इज आस्किंग लॉर्ड कृष्ण. लॉर्ड कृष्ण कहते हैं कि इसके लिए तुम्हें दिव्य शक्ति चाहिए, दिव्य दृष्टि चाहिए. सो इट इज नॉट दैट वी हैव टू चेंज आवर माइंड, वी जस्ट हैव टू ओरिएंट आवर माइंड, वी हैव टू चेंज आवर विजन. सो भगवान बोलते हैं कि मैं तुम्हें वो दिव्य शक्ति दूंगा. तो अब भविष्य में जब कोई बोलेगा कि मैं अवतार हूँ, तो लोग बोलेंगे कि अपना विश्व रूप दिखाओ. तो अवतार बोलेगा कि भाई मैं तो दिखा दूं, लेकिन अगर कोई पाखंडी हुआ या कोई जेलस पर्सन हुआ, अपने आप को भगवान कृष्ण की पोजीशन पे रखने की कोशिश कर रहा है, तो वो बोलेगा लेकिन तुम नहीं देख सकते, मैं अगर दिखा भी दूं तो उस केस के लिए भी भगवान इस्टेब्लिश करते हैं क्राइटेरिया. बोलते हैं कि मैं तुम्हारे को दिव्य शक्ति प्राप्त तुम्हें दूंगा. तो दैट वे यू विल अटेन द एबिलिटी टू सी मी. So this would be the criteria. So the devotees would ask, whoever is saying that he is such and such avatar of Lord Krishna, then they will ask, okay, please show us your universal form. हमें विश्व रूप दिखाइए. और आपके पास तो शक्ति भी है कि आप हमें वो दिव्य शक्ति दे सकते हैं, दिव्य दृष्टि दे सकते हैं, जिससे हम देख सकें. It's like putting a lens on, so that we can see what we cannot see otherwise. तो उस पर्सपेक्टिव से भगवान जब उसको अर्जुन को दिव्य दृष्टि देते हैं, जब उसको डिवाइन विजन देते हैं, तो वो दिखता है कि भगवान का अमेजिंग फॉर्म. एंड नाउ फ्रॉम फर्स्ट 8 चैप्टर इज द डिस्प्ले एज अ क्राइटेरियन इज सेट, एंड द दृष्टि हैज बीन गिवन. नाउ फ्रॉम 9 through 31 वर्सेस दे रिफर टू रिविलेशन ऑफ द यूनिवर्सल फॉर्म, एंड दिस रिविलेशन इज डिस्क्राइब्ड बाय हु? It's not described by Arjun, because we have been hearing from Arjun for a long time. Now this description is coming from Sanjay, who is sitting in a palace with Dhritarashtra, and he is able to see whatever is happening at the battlefield. So there is no need of television, camera crew and all that arrangement. It's simply arranged by Lord's, in potency. This ability is given by the Lord. And देन लोग क्वेश्चन करते हैं कि ओके, अर्जुन ने तो देखा बिकॉज उसको दिव्य शक्ति मिली, संजय ने कैसे देख लिया? बिकॉज ऑफ द मर्सी ऑफ व्यासदेव. Srila Vyasdev, he visited Dhritarashtra before the battle was going to start. तो धृतराष्ट्र के पास गए, बोलते हैं कि मैं तुम्हें को दिव्य शक्ति देता हूँ ताकि तुम यहीं बैठे बैठे वहाँ युद्ध स्थल में कुरुक्षेत्र में क्या हो रहा है वो देख सको। धृतराष्ट्र ने कहा मैं तो आजीवन अंधा रहा हूँ, मेरे को ये दृष्टि देंगे तो मेरे को क्या लाभ होगा, उससे बेटर तो ये है कि आप मेरे सेक्रेटरी या संजय को दे दें। अब संजय वॉज अ डिसाइपल ऑफ व्यासदेव, सो व्यासदेव ने उसको दिव्य दृष्टि दे दी। सो संजय रिसीव डिवाइन विजन फ्रॉम व्यासदेव, शीला व्यासदेव। और हरे कृष्णा, सो he is able to see by the mercy of Vyasadev. So it is by the mercy of the Lord Shiv we can see. और शिला प्रभुपाद अपने लेक्चर में बहुत ही प्यारा एग्जाम्पल देते हैं। वो बोलते हैं अतः श्री कृष्ण नाम आदि न भवे ग्राह्यम इंद्रिया सेवोन्मुखे ही जीवादो स्वयं एव स्फुरतः। लॉर्ड कृष्णा का नेम फॉर्म एक्टिविटीज पास टाइम्स दे आर सो एलिवेटेड, दे आर ट्रांसेंडेंटल, एंड हमारे जो सेंसेस हैं दे आर डल, दे आर ग्रॉस, दे आर मोड ऑफ इग्नोरेंस, सो वी कैन नॉट अंडरस्टैंड इट। हम लोग नहीं भवेत इंद्रिया, इन इंद्रियों से हम नहीं समझ सकते हैं भगवान के जो नाम रूप name form activities pastimes and paraphernalia. But sevan mukhe jivado, when we engage our tongue in glorifying the Lordship, when we engage our tongue in tasting prasadam, prasadam also means mercy, then we get purified, our senses are purified, and Lord by his causeless mercy reveals himself to us. So then we can understand. So if we want to know a person and the person is unapproachable, right? किसी बहुत ही महान व्यक्ति से को जानना चाहते हैं तो बहुत सिंपल तरीका है, बहुत ही आसान तरीका है जब वो पर्सन हमको अच्छी तरह अपने बारे में बताए. And that is coming from the person himself, so we can understand. So this is what it is. Means a small child, like we know, हम लोग जब छोटे थे तो अपने पेरेंट्स को देखते थे, हमेशा वंडर करते थे ये लोग क्या करते हैं, लोग में इतनी कैपेबिलिटीज़ कैसे है. My father, he used to, sometimes just me and my younger brother, he used to just carry on his arms like this, just to kind of like for fun. And we used to be amazed कि अरे इनमें इतनी शक्ति कैसे आई है. अब समझ में आता है पौरुषम निशु. Lord Krishna says, I am the ability in man. So all that ability has been given. And बच्चों की बहुत सारी इच्छा होती है to see, तो हम लोग कभी फादर को बोलते थे, मदर को बोलते थे कि आप लोग ये कैसे कर लेते हैं हमें बताइए, तो हम लोग बहुत अच्छी तरह से समझाते थे. So sometimes when we don't understand the logic, then things appear like magic. So this is weird. But in reality, Srila Prabhupada says, in reality there is no magic. It is only the absence, not knowing the logic behind things. So that's why it is for fools to think that there is magic. In reality, it is the logic. जब हम लॉजिक को समझ लेते हैं, जब उसका तात्पर्य समझ में आ जाता है, उसे हम प्रॉपरली समझ लेते हैं, तब हमें समझ में आता है कि अरे ऐसे हुआ, तो वो मैजिक का पॉइंट ही नहीं रहता. Then we understand and we actually have more appreciation, right? Otherwise, mode of ignorance was magic कर दिया उन्होंने, ऐसा ऐसा करा, magical, it was magical, इतना अच्छा सुना कि बिल्कुल मन खुश हो गया. लेकिन क्यों खुश हो गया? Because it is transcendental knowledge, yes, but when we understand, तो मन ही नहीं आत्मा भी खुश होगी, right? हमारा शरीर ही नहीं. इसलिए भगवद गीता is that shastra, it's the scripture right for this age, and it is right in the middle of Mahabharata, right? Bhishma Parva 23 to 40 जो हैं chapters, that is Bhagavad Gita, Gita Upanishad. It is also one of the Upanishads. Upanishads carry the essence of the Vedanta, and Bhagavad Gita is alone capable of giving us self-realization. So we can take to this, and then Kal to Gita Jayanti hai, an auspicious occasion. So please take this moment, not just to sponsor Bhagavad Gita, not just to, distribute Bhagavad Gita, but also open and read it. Srila Prabhupada, he used to call, his book distributors, disciples, they would go out distributing books and spreading. And then Srila Prabhupada, once asked one of his disciples, so are you reading it? And so he did not get a response back. And Srila Prabhupada said, I have written these books for you, for the devotees in ISKCON to read on a daily basis. And we should give at least 2 hours daily, at least equal to the time we give for chanting, to read Bhagavad-Gita, Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, because it is for our benefit, right? हम लोगों के लिए हितकारी है, it is for our benefit. और हम लोग चैप्टर 12 भी करेंगे इसके बाद में. उसमें तो मैं केवल 20 श्लोक हैं, only 20 verses. And I request, means we should, pay attention, because those verses are revealing what we think sometimes is magical. So the logic behind the magic becomes visible, and we become blessed. So if we are seeking blessings, we should read Bhagavad-Gita, because it is all blissful. It is showering blessings on us. So at that time, Sanjay is saying this, भगवान कृष्ण ने अपना विश्व रूप दिखाया. विश्व रूप में unlimited heads, unlimited eyes, unlimited arms, unlimited legs. ना आदि समझ में आ रहा था, means there was no way to know where is the beginning. ना अंत समझ में आ रहा था, the end was not visible. Means again everything. Arjun was able to see Vishwarup just by sitting on his chariot. So everything that is in the universe, whatever is happening, and across time phases as well, he was able to see. Sanjay describes to Dhritarashtra कि अरे वहाँ पे देवता गण हैं, सारे देवता खड़े हैं, सूर्य, चंद्रमा, ब्रह्मा जी. So Lord Krishna says, sun and moon are my eyes. And all the devata gण, they are actually in fearful state. And Sanjay says that they are praying to Lord Shri Krishna to please have mercy, to please be, Krishna is all auspicious. And Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, they are also praying to in this Vishwarup form for the Lordship to have, to be merciful, to be blessing them for his blessing. And Bhagwan Krishna ke jo different unlimited forms, they are beautifully decorated. All the heads have beautiful helmets, and and there are people rushing. So he wanted to know about what is going to be the destination of the warriors. So he's seeing that all these warriors are rushing into the mouth of the Lordship, and it describes that Dronacharya, Bhishma Pitama, Karna, and Ashwatthama, means not Ashwatthama, Jayadratha, and all these warriors, they were rushing into the mouth of Vishwarup. And उसको ऐसा लगा देखने से संजय को, he says जैसे नदियाँ समुद्र की तरफ, उसमें प्रवाह से उसमें सम्मिलित होती हैं, जैसे merge करती हैं, वैसे he was seeing all these warriors rushing into, and not just the other side. Arjun is also seeing his own side, his own soldiers, his own army, soldiers rushing into the mouth as if rivers are merging into the ocean. And then also he describes that it appears as if moth is rushing into the flame, into the fire, right? That is hypnotism. Say moth, it's attracted by the sight. And moth, just because of the sight, it sees the shiny object and rushes towards it. Just by its own tendency, cannot control its sights, so it burns itself. So this is how all these warriors are rushing into the mouth of Vishwarup, and they are getting crushed. Some of their helmets and their arms and heads are getting crushed in between the teeth of the Vishwarup. So now seeing this scene, this whole, and that this is going to happen. So Lord Krishna had already said that apart from you Pandavas, all other soldiers are going to be destroyed. I have already destroyed them. So he is identifying. And when Arjun sees, he becomes fearful. वो भय से कांपने लगता है Arjun. He falls on his feet and he starts paying obeisances, and he says, "Oh my dear Lord, this form of yours, is very difficult to behold." And Sanjay says, the effulgence, जो विश्वरूप से जो effulgence है universal form की, if there are thousand suns, if they rise up in the sky, then maybe they would be able to match the effulgence of this Vishwarup. And so Arjun, he's describing that Arjun is shaking in fear, and he's praying in a faltering voice that this is very difficult to behold, and he's asking that please, come back. Now, the relationship changed. in this case, right? Previously, Arjun was having conversation with his cousin, his friend, Lord Kṛṣṇa. Then he became a Shishya, his disciple. So he was having a spiritual master and disciple conversation. But now, seeing the Vishwarup, his mood changed. He got into the awe and reverence mood. Yet at the same time, he could not forget his friendly mood, which is at a higher platform than the awe and reverence. Srila Prabhupada says that Vishwarup, just because the material universe manifests and unmanifests, right? Material universe prakat hota hai or aprakat hota hai. You know, it takes a form and then it merges back into Mahavishnu. Similarly, Vishwarup is Lord's arrangement of carrying out the program of this material universe, also manifest and unmanifest. So it is not the eternal form. It is not the spiritual form that is seen on the spiritual planets and the spiritual universes. So that's why it is not at that level. And Lord Kṛṣṇa had already revealed in 9th chapter that there are three kinds of people. They don't worship the Adhyatma form of Lord Kṛṣṇa, rather they are more attracted to the material form. And what are these? Some of them think that they themselves are God. Aham Brahmasmi means I am Brahman, so I have become God. So thinking that way, they worship themselves. In 9th chapter we covered this. Second kind of people are, they concoct some image of God and they worship that. And then the third one is that people who are bewildered, they worship Vishwarup. So devotees, they are not attracted by Vishwarup. It is a manifestation within this material universe of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa to carry out the various arrangements within this material universe, right? So Lord Kṛṣṇa takes on this form and he shows and he says that Arjun, this form has never been seen before. It is for your sake that I am showing it to you. So even the demigods and others had not seen this. So only the devotees, Srila Prabhupada reveals, only the devotees are able to see the universal form of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So Sanjay is a disciple of Vyasadeva. He is in disciplic succession. Arjun is directly getting knowledge from Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, and he receives divine vision. The demigods who are devotees of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, they are also able to see Vishwarup. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, they are able to see Vishwarup. And so, Arjun is asking that this is very difficult to behold. Please take that other form of yours. And when Lord, says, okay, I will remove this vision from your sight, so you don't have to be worried. So he was able to see everything. Now he has already seen. And then at that time he has this other desire, right? He says, okay, this was a material manifestation related, right? Because material universe manifest and unmanifest. So I say Vishwarup prakat hota hai, aprakat hota hai. So I want to see your Virat Roop. You have this magnanimous form where you are holding the four insignias. And what are these insignias? Gada, Chakra, Padma, Shankh. So Padma is lotus flower in one hand. Shankh is the conch in another hand. Gada is the club. And Chakra, Sudarshan Chakra, the wheel on another hand. So the four-arm form of yours. So Lord Kṛṣṇa says, sure, for your satisfaction, I will also show you that. Now, interestingly, when Arjun has seen the Vishwarup and Virat Roop, and he is feeling very blessed, and he is now paying obeisances. Now, Virat Roop is, Srila Prabhupada says, is from the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, there are many spiritual universes, and there Lord is worshipped in his four-arm form. But this four-arm form have different combinations of these insignias. They are in different hands, different positions. So there could be 4 positions, 4 hands and 4 of them. So you can imagine 4 to the power 4 to the power 4. So there are so many of them. And then Lord has so many other incarnations like Ramchandra, Nrsimhadev, Varahadev, so Vamandev. So they are also there. So at that time, Arjun is now seeing Virat Roop, and he pays obeisances from the front, from the back, from all directions. And वो कहता है कि, my dear Lord, he is actually now glad, right? He is happy to see that Kṛṣṇa, who he considered his friend, is such a great personality. He is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is Adi Deva, Adi Bhutam, right? Purana Purisham. He is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is the supreme enjoyer, the original supreme personality. So he is very happy, but at the same time he is also reminded of some dealings that he had, when not knowing. Now it is very interesting that Arjuna is saying that, my dear Kṛṣṇa, I used to call you as Yadav. Yadav is like second class. Kurus were the first class, right, among Kshatriyas. Within Kshatriyas there were different categories. So he used to call Kṛṣṇa, who was his cousin, first cousin, as Yadav, by saying that, even though you are my cousin, but you are a Yadav and I am a Kuru, so I am at a better position. And then, this is like insulting. So maybe jokingly or maybe unknowingly or maybe, in a friendly mood, if I have called you Yadav or Kṛṣṇa, then please forgive me, O Vasudeva. So again, he is calling out to Kṛṣṇa to forgive that impudency. Now, Lord Kṛṣṇa, he is in a very loving exchange, right? He is in a loving relationship as when he appears as son of Nand Baba, son of Vasudev. So Lord Vasudev, Kṛṣṇa, he is in a loving relationship. So in a loving relationship, you don't really mind if somebody calls you like that. So Lord Kṛṣṇa says, no, you are sinless, so don't worry about it. So this is very assuring. A mother, she carries a baby in her womb for 9 months. And in the 9th month, or starting 8th month onward, means we see that the baby starts kicking in the stomach. Does the mother take insult that, oh, the baby is kicking me? No. Actually, she is rejoicing. Oh, baby ne kick kiya, right? So she is rejoicing when the baby is kicking, because there is a loving exchange, there is a loving feeling that there is a baby in me, there is another life in me. So Lord Kṛṣṇa, he is Aham Sarvasya Prabhu Matta Sarvam Pravartate. So everything, he is everywhere and everything is in him. And he is all pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he is only loving us at every moment. And that's what he wants from us, our love. Right? Dhai akar premika pade so pandit hoy. So we have to understand this essence, that we have to not just serve him, we have to serve him with love. And that is where he is actually seeing Arjun, and Arjun says that you are two-arm form. I want to see that. Please, come back to your two-arm form. So Lord Kṛṣṇa, he becomes visible to Arjun in his two-arm form, Shyam Sundar form. And he says that, Arjun, this is my true form. So it is not that Lord Kṛṣṇa is made in the image of man. It is man made in the image of God. So all other religions know this. Yet at the same time, some people who are theists, some people who are envious of Lord Kṛṣṇa, some people who are, whose intelligence have been driven away, Maya, Pratyana, by the material energy, they think that Lord Kṛṣṇa has taken a human form. Well, it is not so. It is actually offensive. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the Mayavadis have offended Lord Kṛṣṇa, so that's why they cannot take to the chanting of the holy name. While devotees, we rejoice when we chant the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. Lord Kṛṣṇa says that I have already killed all these people, which Arjuna has seen now. So they are already killed, and so Arjuna realizes, even if he leave the battlefield, by calling it renunciation, it's not proper renunciation, it's not proper vairagya. Yukta vairagya is to do as Lord Kṛṣṇa desires. So Lord Kṛṣṇa is saying, you can just be an instrument in this effort. Nimitra matram bhavya savya sachin. So this is a message for all of us. We can all be an instrument in the hands of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. We all can use all our abilities, all our times, all our capabilities, all our surrounding environment in serving Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So we will automatically spiritualize our very existence. And that is the program. The program of Srila Prabhupada is to spiritualize this material body and to spiritualize our very being, so that we don't have to say that I'm a spiritual being having material experience. We can say then that I'm a spiritual being having spiritual transcendental experience. So this is I, an instrument in drive, that we can only be an instrument following Lord Kṛṣṇa's instructions, following the instructions of his devotees, and all four paramparas that we know that are coming, they're coming actually originally from Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So they all connected with Lord Shri Krishna. So in drive we have covered D for display as a criterion of the universal form, and R is for revelation of the universal form as being described by Sanjay. Then I is for instrument. We can all be instrument when we serve Lord Shri Krishna. So when there is nut attached to the car, then it has value. If it falls down the side of a road, nobody pays attention. Srila Prabhupada gives the example, if a finger is attached to your body, it has value. When it is cut off, that finger does not have value. But if the doctor can bring that finger back and attach it to your body and it's functional, then again it has value. If it doesn't function, then it's just a sore, right? It's only going to give you pain and unnecessary anxiety, rather not have something like that. Then V is for veneration. So now Arjuna starts praying to Lord Shri Krishna, because realizing that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is all powerful, all merciful, and he is revealing this wonderful knowledge to me. So when Arjuna is praying, that is from 35 through 46 verses, this is venerations. These are the prayers when Arjuna is saying that, my dear Lord, you have enlightened my very being, and you have made me really confident in my service. I am fully aligned to do whatever you say. So at this point, as he is praying, Lord Krishna, he reveals in his two-arm form, which is from 47 to 55, after he has shown Vishwarup form, the universal form, after he has shown the Virat Roop, which is the four-armed, Vishnu form, then E is in drive is for essential and supreme form, is the two-arm form of Lord Krishna, which he reveals to Arjuna that my two-arm form is my original form, and this is very rare for people to see, very rare, even for devotees. So again, because he is a very dear devotee, a friend, and now also disciple, as we understand in Bhagavad-Gita, so he is showing. So, and also Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he says, after Arjuna has asked for forgiveness among his prayers, Srila Prabhupada says that the devotees of Lord Vishnu are demigods. Vishnu Bhakta Smrato Devaha. So all demigod-like qualities develop in the very being of the devotee. And Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Shochati Na Kankshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. So the devotees are constantly engaged in remembering Lord Shri Krishna, constantly engaged in serving Lord Shri Krishna, constantly engaged in chanting the holy name of Lord Shri Krishna. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. Sometimes people ask, how can I connect to ISKCON? How can I become part of ISKCON? Just by taking to the chanting of the holy name. Constantly chanting minimum 16 rounds daily, you become automatically, you get the blessings of Srila Prabhupada's blessings, his mercy, and you start to connect. And when we read Bhagavad-Gita, we are getting direct instructions from Srila Prabhupada in his transcendental purports. And with the association of devotee association is very important. And Shravanam of the 9 processes is the most potent, because it enables all other paths to open up for us. All good fortune comes our way. So this is a great way to make our life blissful. Prasannatma. Na shochati. Then we don't have to worry about the past. Na kankshati. And we don't have to aspire for the future. So all lamentation, all that anxiety goes away from the past, and all the anxiety related to the future, what will happen, goes away. And there is nothing that is inauspicious when you engage in bhakti. Everything becomes auspicious. If you are in material consciousness, then everything is inauspicious. There is nothing good. So this is only delusion that people feel that in material consciousness they are enjoying. They are actually in misery thinking that this is good. That's like the example of a camel, right? ऊँट, वो जाके cactus और ऐसे बड़े shrubs से जब खाने की कोशिश करता है, तो what happens, they is trying to get the twigs, but the जो कांटे होते हैं, thorns, it's speaking into its tongue and it's inside of its mouth, and it's bleeding. And the camel जो होता है ऊँट, वो अपना ही खून को टेस्ट करके सोचते हैं, this is very tasty. It's thinking that the twig it's tasting, the stick it's tasting, the thorns it's tasting is very tasty. In reality, it's only tasting its own blood. So that is what material people are doing. They are tasting their own, they are pulling themselves down. While there is a great opportunity for us to take to bhakti. By devotional service we can continue to progress and seek the goal, which is, people don't know what goal of life is. They think that becoming, some people think if they become the Prime Minister of India, sometimes they think the President of US, that is the goal of life. That is not the goal of life. To become a devotee is the goal of life. Mahatma, we talked about this definition yesterday. Who is Mahatma? One who is a devotee of Lord Shri Krishna. One who is able to, serve Lord Krishna 24/7. So we all have an opportunity, because with Parameshwar, when we are attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, then our life is blissful. Why do we care what people think of us? What we care is what Krishna thinks of us, how well we serve him. Yet at the same time, we don't want to be Kanishta Adhikari, right? Neophyte. We want to have wonderful association with all devotees. Samaha Sarveshu Bhuteshu. We should see that every living entity is very dear to Lord Shri Krishna. Not just human beings, birds, plants, aquatics, animals, all of them are very dear to Lord Shri Krishna, because they are all living entities, and Lord Krishna mercifully is also residing in their heart. Right next to the Atma, the living soul is Paramatma, the super soul. And so Lord Krishna in the last verse, as he is giving his instructions, and he is saying that the essential supreme form is his two-arm form, he is saying, Mat karma kram mat paramo mad bhakta sangha varjitaha nirvairaha sarva bhuteshu yasamamiti pandava. He is saying, my dear Arjun, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of life, and he who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. So this is very much parallel to what we heard as a definition of pure devotional service in Anya Bhilashita Shunyam verse. So he is revealing this to Arjuna, and the next chapter is very blissful chapter, devotional service, chapter 12. So please join us in the next class. And here Lord Krishna, he has revealed, and we understand in this chapter, how to understand this chapter, the various sections using the acronym DRIVE. D is for display of the universal form as a criterion to establish an incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna. R is the revelation of that universal form, what it looks like and how it appears, and being described by Sanjay. And I in DRIVE refers to the instrument. We can all be an instrument in the service of Lord Shri Krishna. And Arjuna, he is praying to Lord Shri Krishna, so venerations have been submitted. So we can all constantly pray, and it's very easy. All we have to do is raise our arms and call out, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And E refers to the essential and supreme form of Lord Shri Krishna. It's his two-arm form, Shyam Sundar form. And we also understand from the last verse, pure devotional service is what is our true engagement, right? Sambandh abhidheya prayojana. So sambandh is, we are eternal living entities as eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. Jive Rasarupa Krishna Nityadas. Process, abhidheya, is to engage in devotional service and pure devotional service, not being covered by the monastic speculation or karmic activities, the karma kand. Rather, serving Krishna as he desires, with love, with devotion, for his pleasure, following the instructions of the previous acharyas in parampara. And so we can attain him. That's prayojana. The goal of life is to go back home, back to Godhead, to attain love of Godhead. And he says that such a devotee constantly meditating on me, using his intelligence in serving me, will surely come to me. Of this there is no doubt, asamshaya. So we should take these lessons to our very heart and engage in bhakti. And as we understand, how will we be able to go back home, back to Godhead? This is very nicely described by Shukdev Goswami. Beautiful analogy Shukdev Goswami gives. He is saying, Samashita ye pad pallav plavam mahat padam pune yasho murari bhavam bhuri vasa padam param padam 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 yatvi padam natesham. Samashita pad pallav plavam. So this is in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 14th chapter, where he is saying that Lord's lotus feet are like as soft as the bud of lotus, right? So it is like lotus petals, as we know, is very soft, but they are the perfect boat, and we can take onto this boat to cross over this bhavam bhure, and this, he is the Lord of this material world, and we can cross in this boat by taking the shelter of his lotus feet. We can cross over this bhav saga, this ocean of nations, and this ocean of nations in that case appears to be the size of a vatsapadam, which is the calf's hoof print. We can easily cross over the calf's hoof print, and we can attain the supreme abode. We can attain the param padam, and we don't have to stay in this place where there is danger at every step. Padam padam yat vipdam natesam. यहाँ पे रहने की जरूरत ही नहीं है जब हम भगवत धाम को प्राप्त कर लेते हैं. अब नाव लेने से, भगवान के जो लोटस फीट है वो एक नाव की तरह है. इतना प्यारे उन्होंने एग्जाम्पल दिया है सुखदेव गोस्वामी ने. तो दिस एनालॉजी एक्चुअली रिवील्स टू अस कि हम लोग कभी किसी सागर को पार करना चाहते हैं, किसी ओशन को क्रॉस करना चाहते हैं, इवन रिवर्स. If we try to swim, we have to do a lot of exercise, and still there is a danger of falling down. Rather, हम लोग अगर कोई ship, कोई cruise ले लेते हैं, तो it becomes pleasurable journey. And in the association of devotee, we can do Sankirtan all the way through. So the congregational chanting is the yajna for this age, which is something we can understand. And in chapter 8, we heard how we can attain the supreme. So here in Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukdev Goswami is describing with such a beautiful analogy. All you have to do is get onto this boat, and the process is very simple. Starts with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa, dear devotees, thank you for joining us. Please see if you can join us in the next class as well, where we will be discussing chapter 12. It is eye-opener, right? You will see many logics being revealed, so what appears magical in the mystical, in the life of mystics, will become achievable, right, in our life itself. Hare Krishna, Gantharaj, Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnav Vind ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.